first day that we were here about caring about other people. Can anybody here say what they learned about empathy at this conference? Not 20%. Okay. Jim learned something about empathy here.
Yeah, sometimes it's very hard to feel empathetic with people we so disagree with. But it's worth the effort anyway.
But it's worth the effort anyway, which is really what he put as a tagline, but it's the most important part of that, I think. Anybody else have a thought about empathy? Okay, Mr. Armando, way over there.
I think it's important that we share our stories with people in order to make a space to create empathy.
Exactly, right, and if we're hiding out, we're not going to be able to ever develop any kind of empathy because people need to see who we are and care about us. Yes, ma'am.
Just going off of that, that is why I share pieces of my story, not the whole story because it's big and ugly, with my Facebook friends. And I've had several of them tell me, in fact, I had one of them tell me, I voted the way that I did because of your story.
Wow. Well, all right.
Awesome.
That was a positive.
And that's how you deal with things. Rose's presentation very much talked about setting an example kind of thing. And as you said that, it reminded me that I don't know why I started doing this, except it just infuriates me. With all the exonerations, I mean, not the exonerations that infuriate me, that there were ever wrongful convictions in the first place, and people are spending 15, 20, 30, 40 years in prison for crimes they absolutely did not commit for no good reason. You know anybody like that? So it's not the whole prison, but it's just, so I've been posting on my page, and I used to say something about them, but then it got to be so many exonerations, that now I just put +1, +1, +1, that it keeps coming up. Well, my sister, who lives in Wisconsin, who is married to a judge, and he used to be pretty hard-nosed about things, and they were kind of uptight about what I did. But she now is very much against the death penalty because of what I posted. Because we could have actually executed somebody who might not have been guilty. A lot of people have been executed. Ivy, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's also important to make the extra effort to consider the terms we use when we talk about people, and because that can greatly affect actually the direction of how things go for everybody. So, in person-centered language,
right, person-centered language, watching how we talk about people, and so hopefully you're going to leave here later today. We've got a few things coming up with some new ideas generated. But right now we want to hear from Megan. Where is she going? Just over there.
I was
being a teacher. Because she has 2 poems that she wants to share with us. One is on empathy.
Sorry. No, I saw a small child and I was like, I have modeling clay for my session. Does she want to play with it? It's like me and kids, it's a thing. But on the note of empathy, just 2 quick things before each poem. First off, I don't think if you don't directly have someone in prison, you won't understand the meaning of a conference like this, where every single day you really have to live a lie. And you're not ashamed of your life, but I mean, you can get kicked out of teaching in a school for it. And I think as far as the stigma goes, there's a very negative stigma, and I'm sorry, it's also perpetuated by professionals that are trying to help incarcerated loved ones, families, of thinking that we are these damsels in distress that need saving. I am not a damsel in distress and I don't need saving. I am saving myself and I'm saving my husband while I'm at it, and I'm going against the whole world in high heels backwards. just yesterday, there were a few things said, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna get on that. But I mean, Strong Prison Wives and Families, we are a group of professionals. We have a lady who has her own business. I have been professional in education for 9 years. Ro works in a legal office. Lizanne is a high up in her business, and at the same time of raising children and running a nonprofit organization and our full-time jobs, we don't run a social media page. We run a 501c3 international nonprofit. So I just want to take a step out there. Yeah, we look cute in our little shirts, but that's not our uniform. My uniform is getting up every single day and putting a smile on my face and fooling 200 8th graders. This is where the uniform comes off. And I want to thank Carolyn and Barbara for allowing the uniform and the mask to come off, especially for a group of ladies that have to be the strongest women in the world, to be able to be weak and not to be looked down and condescended by people that are trying to help us. So we do appreciate that. So this is empathy. I'm trying to cry. Until you see the love of your life led away in handcuffs, and all you can do is mouth your vows to him as he walks out the door, you can't understand how I feel. Until you have to hear some stranger DA call him a monster and say that he only cares about his daughter when he is going to prison, my situation is not real to you. You can't feel the blue skies being sucked dry into grayscale. You can't theorize the traumatizing effects of the first night you both spend in a cell. In a hell, in a jail of bars, one fluorescent and one neon. You can't imagine the journey that I've had to be on until you walk a mile on shards of glass of photo frames in bare feet. Until your reservation for dinner is complete at a table for one. Until someone takes a visible step away from you when they discover the truth of your husband winning the government. Until you cover it with a smile and a reassurance that you're fine. Until time drags on for 6 days but rushes by in 4 hours, you don't know the power of a phone call. Of standing tall, walking to the house with an envelope. Of choosing to elope where the groom wears white. Of being right but being wrong in the eyes of the world. Of being the luckiest girl in the world but having to contain her joy. Of being the prize puppet, the toy of the justice system. Of being the victim of the worst kind of rights violation in a nation that only sees him in numerics. Of being in hysterics that he has a name. He has a name, and it is the most beautiful sonnet ever written. He is someone more than the 24601 that you have placed upon him. He is more than the color of his skin. He is the content of his character that you have cast aside to scrutinize his moment of error. The terror of this ever-lifting nightmare is always there, and no matter how many times I pinch my flesh, I am no more or less sleepwalking in this lucid dream as the day I became colorblind. As the day my body was trapped behind the paralysis of an incomplete sentence, of being defenseless to say anything in his defense, to be in contempt of my pent-up outrage as well as the law, to allow the fires of rage to thaw the Arctic winter that froze my heart, to burn every part of me to feel the flame, the scorch, the brand of cold steel clasping the hands that once exalted, of cold steel slapping the hands that once exalted the hills and trails of the landscape of my skin. To live in purgatorial limbo of yearning for freedom, but the pound of flesh being too light. Of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but knowing it's the bonfire at the base of a pyre that they have prepared. You can't be there with me until you see the oceans in his eyes dry in the drought of sleepless nights and red skies of the morning hurricane of tears pouring from his soul. You can't know the whole. You can't even understand the part. But your heart can empathize. You could dry my eyes and hold me until the quaking ends. You could be a friend in a friendless world. You could see the girl and not the invisible shackles that bind and furl. You could be there after the going got tough. You could be there, and that would be enough. So that's empathy. So let's last year, Carolyn comes up to me at breakfast the last day of the conference. And she goes, Megan, Nicole, Ruby, whatever your name is, can you write a poem for the Prisoners Family Conference? And I was like, sure. And SPWF can tell you, I sat at that table with my journal and a cup of coffee and I wrote like I was on fire. And it just came to me. And real quick, Carolyn and Barbara, if I grow up to be half the women you are, I will have surpassed any dreams I've ever had for myself as a little girl. When I tell you I love you, when I tell you you are my family, I do not take it lightly. You are the two mothers that have turned your back on me and you have filled that hole. Thank you for being my family when my family left. And thank you for being a shining beacon in a world that is nothing but darkness. I love you, and you deserve every standing ovation in the world. And you deserve every trophy that can possibly be given to you. So on that note, I wrote this thinking of Barbara and Carolyn and my family over at that table. Family doesn't have to be blood, and love can be spontaneous. Instant relationships can be formed in a day, whereas Rome was constructed over ages. A common link, more common than you think, binds us to each other. Being father, daughter, sister, and mother creates in us almost a spirit of adoption. A concoction not of blood and sweat, but laughter and tears. Years of pain, decades of shame fade away from view in a room of impromptu dance parties, where parties don't matter. Not battering between red versus blue, but shattering stigma between me and you, family. Gravity, the force of two objects attracted to each other, in other words, a bond. Invisible, yet indivisible. A strong sense of kinship, a friendship like the sisterhood of the traveling pants. Maybe not the same denim, but of the same gene pool. Of shared traits, group rates, friend dates, all relating to our neighbor after paying for the sins of our fathers. We don't have to be bothered with half-truths and hidden youths. We are all the same. We all bear the name of family. Friend. A walk all with different beginnings, but a camaraderie without end. Our hands all fold in the same prayer, and we are all there for our congregation. Our small nation united through incarceration, forming the creation of a brave new world. Of men and women, boys and girls, who can accept a call without having to walk away. Who have the freedom to say, my real name is Megan, and my husband is in prison. All having the same vision, the same mission for change, and it's strange that I loved you before my arms folded in embrace. The same race, the human race in its purest form, souls torn apart but mended by the joining of ourselves, shells held up to ears and hearing the ocean, the swell, the motion of waves of emotion crashing against the shore. The poor becoming rich, the lost becoming found. The blind gaining sight and the mute given sound, and we are all the body. And if I am the mouth, then you are the legs on which I stand to walk around. And you are the hands, and you are the feet. And with the forming of these bands, our pulse is complete. Thank you.
And with that, okay. Well, I'm going to kind of digress a little bit, and I will introduce our speaker here. We were talking at noon, and I recalled back to when we started this conference 11 years ago. And we did it through email. I had met through probably the internet, and it was back then pretty much internet, because we didn't do social media until the second year, really the third year of the conference, when we started talking about the second year of the conference. So I had seen two other programs, one in New York, and one in Barbara. It's a lady named Allison Coleman, whose husband was in prison for 25 years, during which time they raised two gorgeous, wonderful children by what they could have trailer visits and telephone calls all those 25 years. And I read about them, and I read about the program in New York that she had started. So I contacted her and I said, what about us doing a conference? What would you feel about bringing prison families together and maybe educating the public to what the prison family endures? And she was all for it. That was a great idea. Was willing to email and put it on email to her friends and people that she was working with up in the New York area. And then I found another one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which at that time was pretty much doing work in New Mexico, but now it's an international ministry. And her name is Ann Edenfield. Now it's Ann Edenfield Sweet with the Wings Ministry out of Albuquerque, and she was also willing. Her husband had been in prison, and they had 4 little boys at the time. They're all grown, of course, now. And she was willing to send out to her friends and the people, and I don't know how it happened, but we ended up with over 100 people in El Paso, Texas, that very first year. And Ann, working a lot with little kids, kept saying, we need to do games, we need to do something fun, something silly at the conference. And Allison from New York said, fun, there's nothing fun about this, it's serious business. You don't put a game out, it's gonna make me cry. So we didn't, for the first 2 years, this was a very serious conference. Not a lot of smiling, but Barbara came to the second conference, and things changed. And Barbara has a theory, it's what, if you're not laughing, you're crying. And so we would rather laugh than cry. So when people come to the conference now, they go like, what the heck is this? This is serious. My kid's in prison. My husband's in prison. This is serious business. And yes, it is. It's very serious. But it doesn't have to be deadly serious. And if we can't laugh, if we can't enjoy things, if we can't have a good time, then we can't help the person who's incarcerated. To lift them, to give them the hope that Terrence was talking about this morning. So we decided to add a little fun. That's when we started having drawings and these little things until the 11th year, because for 2 years before now, the 9th and 10th year, Fury Young from California had contacted us. Darn, but he's such a star. I'm sure you're going to California, right?
My heart.
He is from New York, probably sits up there. He contacted me and asked if he could talk at the conference. Well, it was almost 2 days before the conference, and it sounded interesting to me. And I said, well, we'll try to squeeze you in someplace. Well, for about 3.5 minutes at this time of day, the last day, he had the opportunity to share the music project that he's working on, which he'll tell you about in a minute. I'm going to go into that right now. So that was that. He played a snippet of the music that he's producing. So then the second year comes. This is the 10th year of the conference last year, and he's not sure he can come. He's not. Maybe he can come, maybe he'll come, he doesn't know. And so now it's maybe 2 weeks before the conference. And he says, yeah, I'm gonna be able to come. I'm coming down that way. I'd like to talk again. So I said, well, the program's already, laid out, and we're printing it. And so, well, maybe I can squeeze you in for 5 minutes. So last year he got to do 5 minutes
Which became
at this time. Told us a little bit about his project, played a little snippet of music. That's all, except for people really were intrigued. People liked the sound that they heard. And so this year, about 7 months ago, I called Trudy and I said, what do you think? Maybe you'd like more than 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And he didn't say yes, that he would like that. He said, let me see what I can do to get there. And so within 2 days, he called back and committed himself to being here. And then, he can tell you about this a little bit more too. And then, he got the idea that we really need to have a concert associated with this conference. And she heard her Fury from New York. And so she called him, and he'll tell you what happened there. So this is Fury Young from New York, and he's going to tell you all about himself, his project, and the people with him. Okay.